welcome back to my channel. It's Maggie. How are we today? I'm going to tell you about my favorite books of 2025 today and my least favorite. Is it mid-March? 100%. Did I have a channel back in the beginning of January? No. So you're gonna listen to them now and you're gonna like it. Thank you. So let's start with my favorites because 2026 is a year that I'm going to stop being such a hater. So let's start with the favorites. Let's start in a good mood, guys. So my favorite book of the entire year I actually read in December, and that is The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjane Kamali. This book is fantastic. How this author is able to convey such richness through her pages is astronomical. I want to try Persian restaurants because of how she wrote about the food. The love that these two main characters have for each other, they're best friends, platonic best friends, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The love that you have for somebody who's like a sister to you is incredible. I truly felt like I knew these women. I've never been to Iran, I probably will never go in my life, but I felt like I was there with them experiencing the hardships that they went through. It is fantastic. I have another book of hers on my shelf. I'm going to read it. I'll probably read anything this author writes. I love it. Also, as it takes place in Tehran, I think it's so important to educate ourselves, especially with the world that we currently live in. It's so important to know context and background and how other people see the world. So I think especially now it's so important to be reading books by this author, by other authors that come from countries and places that are so different than our own. So The Lion Women of Tehran is hands down my favorite book of 2025. In second place, so close behind The Lion Women of Tehran, is Slewfoot. Obviously, completely different books, completely different genres. Slewfoot is written by Broom. I think that's how you say his name. And Slewfoot is a horror book. My first ever horror book that I've ever read, and I was shocked how much I loved this book. You follow the character Abatha and her life and how she's living in early colonial America. She is accused of being a witch, and if there's a witchy aspect of a book, I'm going to be sat. You don't need to tell me to sit, I am sat. I love witchy books. That's one of the reasons why I love the book Wayward, where that follows 3 different witches through different time periods. But Slewfoot is just such an incredible book. If you're a feminist, you're gonna be like, oh, yes, Abatha. She also has red hair, and I'm just a girl that if the main character is a redhead, I'm so locked into her journey. And Slewfoot gets dark, it gets gory, it gets intense at the end. So buckle up. If you aren't ready for that, maybe steer clear of this book. I didn't know I could handle reading that kind of stuff, but here I am saying that it was my second favorite book of the entire year. I think this book was fantastic. And yeah, I don't know if I'll read anything else from that author, but it definitely opened my eyes to see that I can read horror books and not have nightmares after it. The next book that at the time was one of my favorite books, and I'm still including it in this list, is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. When I was reading this book, I loved this book. I thought the family dynamic was crazy and it had me hooked. Like, I could not put this book down. I was reading it on the train and my husband kept asking me questions and I was like, sir, you need to, I'm trying to lock in and figure out what, it wasn't a mystery, but like what was happening, and I needed to figure out, yes, what are the mystery in this book. That being said, the huge problem that I had with this book is one of the main characters that you meet towards the latter half of the book is a French man. His first language is French. And so when Jessa Hastings wrote this book and she made several French mistakes throughout it, it was such little mistakes too, and the character didn't speak that much in French, so it would have taken such little time for her or her editors to go and Google and see if what she was saying was correct. For example, at one point, this French person says to the main character, mon fils. That's just so wrong. If you speak French, like, it just blows your mind. So what he's trying to say is my daughter. Obviously, daughter is a feminine word, so he wouldn't use mon, he would use ma fille. And any French person really would know that it's quite a simple grammar issue, nothing too complex. And it honestly would have taken them 2 seconds to type into Google my daughter and have the correct verbiage. And it blew my mind. And it wasn't the only mistake that happened, because every time it happened, I turned to my husband and I was like, this is so strange. Like, you're a big author. This is not your first book. You have editors. Like, what is happening? And I know Jessa Hastings has very strong opinions on AI, and including AI in her her writing. And so I'm like, well, if you're so interested in AI, like, you could have easily put that into AI and it would have told you that you had mistakes. So I just find that super ironic and a little comical. So with that being said, I don't think I'll ever read really anything else from Jessa Hastings, just from her stance on AI and just the faults through it. I did love the book nonetheless, so I wish I could separate the two, but yeah, it was still one of my favorite books, even though I have some major problems with it. And for the next book, let's see. Oh, Reckless by Elsie Silver. So I read every single book in the Chestnut Springs series. I also read every single book in the series that came right before that, like Photo Finish, Off to the Races, that series that I'm forgetting the name of. But I loved Chestnut Springs. A lot of us love Chestnut Springs, and I'm just a Theo and Winter girl. I loved Reckless. I just believed their relationship so much more than other relationships in that series. Like, everybody loves Daddy Cade and Willow, but and this is me as a redhead saying that Willow wasn't my favorite character, which is heartbreaking for me because I have to support the redhead. But her and Cade, I'm just like, I don't really get your guys' relationship. The other couples, trust me, I love Chestnut Springs, but no one was better than Theo and Winter. And just Winter, I just had such a sympathy for her. And then also with Theo, he's just my type on paper. And it's just, if you never read an Elsie Silver's book and you're looking to start romance, know going into Elsie Silver that Elsie Silver books are romance for sure. If you are French and you know Macron meme, you would get that regardless. What was I saying? Oh, they're definitely romance books, but they're definitely also smut. And just go into that knowing that it's going to be smutty. It's going to be spicy. Like, maybe don't read it on your lunch break at work. I could never. I would just feel really uncomfortable. But regardless, these books are great. They're a fun time. They're amazing. And I loved them. And then lastly, to finish off like my top 5 books of 2025 is definitely not one book, but a series. It's a trilogy, and it's the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I loved this series. It is the opposite of the Chestnut Springs series, where Once Upon a Broken Heart is more, I think it's classified as YA. It's definitely like a romantasy, but it's very lighthearted. You follow a girl, Evangelina, one of those two, in her search of like a true love. And during that time, she makes deals and gets herself in situations, but everything is sort of lighthearted and not super like heavy. It's a very light book, but when I say it's light, this book is action-packed. I would always try to explain what was happening to my husband, and I was like, I would have to draw you a map on all the characters, all the places, all of the shenanigans. This series is filled with adventure experiences, blah, blah, blah. but I loved it. I read these books so quickly. They are quite easy reads because they probably are YA classified, but still they're so enjoyable. Such a fun time. Like honestly, I think if you're like 16 years old, you can read them, and if you're my age or older, you can read them. Like they're just fun. And also they're super pretty. Like the covers are gorgeous. That's actually what made me pick them up, because I judged a book by its cover. I was like, those are really cute. Like I want those books. And I'm just happy that I like them and it worked out. So sometimes you can judge a book by its cover. So those are my favorite books from last year. Switching to my least favorite books of last year, the inner hater of me can come out now. Let's start off strong with On Chesil Beach. I hated this book with my entire soul, and I'm a ginger. I hated it. I hated this book. I picked it up at my local library. Obviously living in France. Living in France, going to your local library, you're not going to have a huge selection of English books. That's fine, it's accepted. I picked up this book because Saoirse Ronan was on the cover, because I guess there was a movie adaptation of it. And it was a short book. It's maybe 150 pages. So I was like, oh, it's a historical fiction. Interesting. I love Saoirse Ronan. I think she's a fantastic actor. And so I picked it up and I started reading, and I was like, ugh. This man, like her husband of maybe 48 hours, is horrendous. He is an awful husband, and it's just him complaining about how his wife doesn't meet up to the expectations that he wanted, and he's like so confused and lost. And I'm like, homeboy, it's been 48 hours. It's also the 1950s. Like, I don't know what you think you were like meeting this loose woman. Like, let her live her life. And then you just get her perspective and you just have such empathy, and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry that you ended up with this man as a husband. And I just hated the male main character. The only good thing about it was by the end, his life didn't turn out how he wanted his life to turn out, and her life was like flourishing, and everything that she wanted to accomplish, she did accomplish. But I was so close to DNFing this book, and I'm glad I sort of didn't, because then I wouldn't know that he became a flop and she became the goddess that she always knew that she would be. But honestly, I couldn't wait to march back to my library and give that book back, because I was like, that book is trash. I'm sorry, that's intense, but whiny men in books do not have a place on my bookshelves. I just can't with whiny men. So On Chesil Beach was not a high scorer for me of 2025, but maybe you guys would like it. Moving on to another book that I did not like, and I will not be reading from this author in the future. I just don't get on with her writing, which is Abby Jimenez, which is a shame because so many people like Abby Jimenez books, and I want to like her books. I read Just for Summer and the one before that as well, and those were fine, they were all right, but The Friend Zone, I hated from, again, start to finish, The Friend Zone. I hated the main character. I think her name was Kirsten. She was such a pick-me. She was such a girl that's like, oh yeah, I watch Die Hard. I don't watch romantic comedies. I do this, I don't do that. Like, get over yourself. Like, making you like something that's not typical for your gender doesn't make you better than the rest of your gender. And that's exactly how I felt she was. She just was trying so hard to be the different girl, and I didn't have time for her. And then also the male main character at times said like some like misogynistic like jokes, and I'm like, I don't like you, I don't like you. And I don't want you guys to have a happy ending. Obviously they did because it's a romance book, but I just didn't care about them and I didn't want them to succeed. And also there's this one part, like a subplot in this book that gets dark, and it was just not something I was ready for based off of anything else in the book. So this book was just not a lighthearted, fun time that I was hoping that it was. And yeah, Abby Jimenez seems such a sweet person, so it's a shame that I don't like her writing, but I think that unfortunately will be my last Abby Jimenez book. The next book that I really didn't get on with is Blood of Hercules. Blood of Hercules is a romantasy. The trope of this romantasy is why choose. If you know what a why choose trope is, okay. If you don't, I'm not explaining it to you. Please go look it up on your own time. I learned that why choose is probably not the trope that I will be moving forward with. I didn't like it. I felt like everybody was kind of obsessed with her in an unnatural way, the main character. And in a way where I was like, if this was my friend, I would pull her aside and be like, are you comfortable with all these men like around you and like touching you and stuff? And like, it's, at times it seemed predatorial, and I didn't enjoy the vibe that was happening with all, like every single male main character basically was in love with her, which great for you, girl, but like the male main characters can also be respectful of boundaries in space, personal space, and I just wasn't getting that. So at times I was like, like I don't like this vibe at all. There's a second book. Needless to say, I will not be reading the second book, and will still steal. Oh my God, I cannot speak. Steer clear of why choose books in the future. Another book that I didn't like, that I have less hatred for, is Little Fires Everywhere. I read this book because I think I took it from my mom, honestly. And she really liked it because she reads a lot of the Reese Witherspoon book movie adaptations or the Reese book clubs. And I'm pretty sure this was one of them. I just didn't get on with the different families. There was a few characters in the wealthy family that kind of annoyed me, like the youngest girl kind of grated on me at times. And then also the mom, the photography woman on like the poor family. She kind of at times crossed some like boundaries that I thought was like not super cool. And I'm like, you're somebody's mom, but you're not this girl's mom. So like, why are you saying or doing these things? And there was also like another subplot of this other mother. And I was like, all of this is just very strange. And I just didn't think that this book was going this way. And I just didn't really necessarily enjoy the book and all of the characters. I feel like when I read, I need books that have likable characters. I have a really hard time with books that have unlikable characters. For example, a side tangent, Remarkably Bright Creatures, I really liked 2/3 of that book, which is Tova and Marcellus. The third that I didn't like was Cameron. That character of Cameron drove me insane. He was such a whiny man-child, and everything was everybody else's fault, and everybody owed things to him instead of him actually getting off his butt and actually getting it for himself. So he really drugged that book down for me, where everything else was like, oh, cute, wholesome, a little bit sad. And then there was him who was just like, ugh, why would a man be there? So I need books that have good characters that are flawed, but like they're still good people, and not flawed as in like immature or rude or assholes. So yes, that was another honorable mention that I just slipped right in there. And then lastly, for another romance, because I guess I struggled with some romances this year, was Till Summer Do We Part. This book I actually read on my birthday, and I picked the wrong one because I was like, oh, this is not a fun birthday read for me, because with romance tropes, I guess Why Choose is one that I'm steering clear from as well. And then also fake dating. Fake dating I have a really hard time with because I get so uncomfortable with lying, like in real life and then also like in entertainment. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but like on Nickelodeon and Disney Channel growing up, there was always an episode of like That's So Raven or The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, where something happened and they lied about it. Or there was an episode of That's So Raven where Raven bought a sweater that was too expensive and she's like, oh, I'll wear it and then I'll return it. And then she puts it in the wash and it shrinks to like a little doll-sized sweater, and she like has to figure out what to do now out of this situation. And I'm like, just tell the truth, like just why would you get yourself in this situation in the first place? And that's how I feel about fake dating. Like, why lie and get yourself into this weird situation? Like, come on. And so that's what it is in Till Summer Do We Part. She lies to her boss and her coworkers saying that she is married, but she's in a bad place in her marriage. And in turn, she gets invited with all her coworkers and her boss to a couples retreat seminar to work through like a therapy weekend with her boss's husband who runs all of it. So they just have to pretend to be married the entire time and they fight. And I'm just like, oh my God, I know there's gonna be a point where either somebody figures it out or you have to tell them. And I'm just my anxiety can't with fake dating, which sounds extreme, but when I'm reading romance, I just wanna have a good time and kick my feet and giggle. I don't need the lying to be involved. Like, it just stresses me out. So, but if you like fake dating and you get along well with it, or you don't get stressed out for no reason over fictional characters, try it. I don't think it's a bad book. I think it's just not the right trope for me. That's my opinion. Tamara Judge. But yeah, so I went highs, then intensely lows, and now sort of like neutral flops. But those were my highs and lows of 2025. I read a lot of books last year for me, there's some people on like BookTube or Bookstagram that read like hundreds of books. I read, I think, 54 books last year, and I was definitely in the mood of reading more like quantity versus quality. And this year I want to flip it. I want to read quality over quantity, and I'm also trying to do vastly different genres. I will still read some romance books because that always just tickles my fancy for like a nice little palate cleanser, but less romance than last year, but also more romance that I know I like the tropes with. So I won't be wasting my money on books that I didn't enjoy, hopefully. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know what your favorite books were from the last year, the last few months, and also the books that you hated, because I'm still a hater to my core and I want to know when you guys hate something. Please let me know. And yeah, until next time, bye.